Welcome back. You could say it's a daughter's job to fend the family, but that task becomes a little more complicated when your dad is President Donald Trump. Ivanka Trump debuting overseas this morning as a White House advisor and finding herself fighting off jeers.
He's been a tremendous champion of supporting families and enabling them to thrive in the new reality of
you hear the reaction from the audience.
I think in my personal experience, and you were asking me about my role as daughter and also advisor, as a daughter, I can speak on a very personal level, knowing that he encouraged me and enabled me to thrive.
Ivanka shrugged off the chilly reception after the event, telling reporters, quote, "Politics is politics, as I've learned." Another question from reporters, was that moderator too tough? Ivanka's answer, quote, "I'm used to it." The message from the first daughter, this is now just part of her new day job. But there are still many questions. Here's two. When she speaks, which job is she actually doing? And which of her father's many interests is she keeping an eye on?
And whom are you representing? Your father as the President of the United States, the American people, or your business?
Well, certainly not the latter. And I am rather unfamiliar with this role as well, as it is quite new to me. It has been a little under 100 days, but it has just been a remarkable and incredible journey.
Tough debut.
I think that's the question, though. It's interesting that she got it, that a lot of people have about her role in the White House. She is what people say is the closest that he has to someone who will tell him to back down or back off, even if he doesn't take that advice. But I mean, I think she is still figuring out how to define her role. There are moments when she's been in the Oval Office and stayed there for 3 hours. People say her father is much calmer, and that the discussions go better. So it's just going to be really interesting to see that evolve over here, and she's going to have to expect to take tough questions if she's got that title in the White House.
It's also interesting to see her out speaking. You see her a lot. And we know, that she's very influential, but usually she's sort of sitting next to her father. She's out there more. I mean, she's not on Sunday shows yet, but she's doing being more of a spokeswoman for the administration, which, quite frankly, is probably a good thing for them. I mean, she says things quite well. She's very articulate. She had a good debut at the Republican convention, but since then we haven't heard a lot from her.
But this is the part about Ivanka that's always complicates the situation for this administration. She is a little bit different from her father. When she spoke at the Republican National Convention, a lot of people listened to that speech and they said, "Oh, well, that could have come out of any Democrat's mouth," and it doesn't really reflect, the man who was being nominated for President of the United States. So she's in a lot of ways a paradox, and for people to take her seriously, there has to be some merging of those two things at some point, where her views and her father's actions come into line. So far, we just haven't seen that yet, and we saw it again today, where she's talking about something that people are looking at and saying, well, we don't see that from President Trump.
But we do know that she and her advisors, are reaching out to Democrats on the child care issue, that she plans to step up her role on that and get some kind of policy into the budget later this year. So we may see a more policy-oriented Ivanka coming up.
But can she get if her dad can't get Freedom Caucus votes on health care, can the daughter get Freedom Caucus votes on a government mandate it's a government mandate of child care, and her last name is Trump.
Yes.
And one of the questions of this administration was, and this is the 14th week, and 12 of the weekends, President Trump has been to at least one property that bears his name. Ivanka Trump still has, even though she's divested some stuff, put some stuff aside, her name is still Trump. One of the issues as she travels to Germany and gets this rough reception is the State Department was embarrassed yesterday. They had to pull down a blog posting, and we can show it to you. This is from Share America. It was also posted on embassy websites overseas. Curious about the president's winter White House, also known as Mar-a-Lago. Trump is not the first sitting president. This is a graphic of the web posting. If you look at the posting itself, it has a picture of Mar-a-Lago, and it goes on. Now they pulled it down. The intention of the article was to inform the public about where the president has been hosting world leaders. It sure seemed like an ad for a Trump property on a government website.
Memberships just went up a little bit there.
Yeah, and it's a private club, and it's also. I mean, I know Ivanka stepped away from her businesses, but it doesn't help for appearance sake when she's sitting in on some of these foreign leaders, including the President Xi, and all of a sudden they get patents approved in
Ivanka
China.
clothing brand, right?
Exactly. And so that things like that, whether or not anything wrong, anything happened, the appearance of impropriety
is a trademarking issue.
Exactly, totally. And so that's why that question by that moderator was completely valid. Well, is she there to represent her businesses? That's a question.
And I want to read you something from, again, back to the Associated Press interview with President Trump. He says, here, pretty much everything you do in government involves heart, whereas in business, most things don't involve heart. He's talking about the issue of healthcare coverage. What's the switch been like for you, he's asked. In fact, in business, you're actually better off without it. Meaning, as the CEO of a business, and again, let's be fair, what he was talking about there is access to healthcare. And as a CEO, you're saying, I have to cover my employees. What's the best deal I can get? How much does it cost? But it's interesting to hear him say, in business, you're better off without it.
Well, I think, and people, if you talk to people close to him, it's the transition from businessman to politician, and nobody sort of fully expects him to make that full transition. But he is also making a transition from a privately held company into a publicly held government. And so he hasn't sort of gotten used to that transparency, the differences in being a public figure in charge of a public organization in the United States government.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he's gone 12 of the 13 or 14 weekends to a property with his name on it, that is his answer to the ethics watchdogs who say you need to separate yourself more from this. I think that's his answer. We'll see how it plays out as we go on and on and on, but that's his answer. Up next, President Trump talks tough on North Korea, Syria, and now Canada? Yes, the trade dispute with the United States neighbor to the north.